Hey everyone, Richard at HQ today, and today we're going to talk a little basics. For some of you that have been around a while, this is going to be old news, but for the new ones joining us, this could be helpful. There's a lot of people who are joining us these days because of the situation in the world today. So I thought maybe going over some basics might be a good idea. And today we're going to be talking about food. But you need to be able to produce your own food because even if you do store food and store quite a bit of it, eventually it's going to run out. So you're going to need to be able to replenish that. And the way you do that, of course, is by gardening and trees that produce fruit or chickens and rabbits and goats and pigs and whatever you're able to raise wherever you're at. You're going to want to make sure you have enough seeds to get you through the first year, just in case they do run short on seeds. As far as food storage goes, we're going to talk about that a little bit, and we're going to show you how to do a little of that. Most people will save food in 5-gallon buckets or jars or Mylar bags or what have you. So we're going to go over that. So when you store food, there's some basic supplies you're going to need. You're going to need containers to put your food in. You're going to need the food itself, of course. And you're going to need oxygen absorbers or a way to remove oxygen. So let's talk a little bit about what you can store and what's not a good idea to store. So basically, most dried foods are okay to store. I do not recommend anything with eggs, such as egg noodles. They will go bad on you. Anything that has a lot of fats or something is going to go rancid on you. And it's best to store things that are in their natural state before they get ground up or smashed or anything. So in other words, it's better to store wheat rather than flour. The wheat will last longer than the flour. The flour will probably last you about 5 years. The wheat's probably going to last you 20, 25 years, somewhere around there. So let's talk about oxygen absorbers. Oxygen absorbers generally come in sizes of 20 cc's up to 2,000 cc's. And of course, the bigger the container you're going to put your stuff in, the more amount of cc's you're going to need for that container. Okay, so let's get some things together, and we'll put a couple of containers together so you can see how the process works. Stick around. So before we get started here, I just wanted to say, please give us a like, a thumbs up, follow us, subscribe to us, whatever the case may be on whatever platform you're watching us on. We would appreciate it. It helps us out a lot. And I just wanted to say that those of us who have been doing this for quite a while feel like we're running out of time. So we want to make sure we get this across to you that if you haven't started saving food, growing gardens, or what have you, we really do think it's time that you get started, and hopefully you have time to get some stuff done. All right, so I'm going to move you in closer, and we'll take a look at what we're doing here. So when you get your oxygen absorbers, they usually come in a package like this. You can see that these are 300 cc oxygen absorbers. So right here on the package, it even tells you place 5 absorbers for a 5-gallon container. So each one will do up to a gallon. That's what they look like. And then once you open it, you need to put it into something that's going to hold airtight, because you don't want to ruin them. And usually what I'll do is I'll just put them in a jar, a mason jar with a lid on it. And that works pretty good. It holds it in there. The lid stays down. That's how you know that it's working. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to put some in a mason jar, some food in a mason jar. Today we're going to use some navy beans. Just going to fill it up, and we'll put an oxygen absorber in there and show you how it works. It's really pretty simple. Some beans in here. And the reason you would want to put it in a jar like this, it's usually short-term storage, because if you want to do it long-term, you really need to put it in a container that's light tight, so the light doesn't get in, because light is an enemy of your food. It'll ruin your food. So let's just take one of these oxygen absorbers out, and you can watch. See how the lid's on there nice and tight? See that? So we'll put an oxygen absorber right on top. Put the lid on, and you want to put the lid back on this guy right away, because you don't want to ruin the oxygen absorbers that you have. Make sure it's nice and tight. Nice and tight. And there you go. That's ready to go. So this has a 300 cc oxygen absorber in it. Clearly, that's more than enough to work on a 1 quart jar. And oxygen absorbers, inside is powdered iron. And what happens is when the oxygen hits them, they begin to oxidize, in other words, rust. And that's how the oxygen is taken out of the container. So now let's show you how we do a larger one, a 5-gallon bucket. Okay, so for long-term food storage, you're going to need a 5 or 6 gallon bucket, food grade, which this one is. You're going to need a lid. We have a couple of choices here. We have a regular standard lid, fits on top. Or we have a gamma lid, which is basically a ring, and you can unscrew the top. So once you open it, you can always close it back up and go from there. And then you're going to need something to fill it with, which in this case we're going to use beans. Got a few pounds of beans here. You're going to need some oxygen absorbers. These are 2,000 cc oxygen absorbers, and if you need 300 for each gallon, we have plenty for this 5-gallon bucket with just one absorber. And then you're going to need a Mylar bag. The thicker the Mylar bag, the better. Thinner ones, not a good idea. So the Mylar bag, the oxygen absorbers, you can get them online. They're pretty easy to find. Also, if you have a Winco near you, they have them in stock usually, and you can pick them up there. The buckets and the lids, believe it or not, are now available at Home Depot, Lowe's, easy to find. So let's move over and get a closer look at what we're doing here, and we'll fill this thing out. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is take your bucket and you want to put your Mylar bag in it. Make sure you push it all the way down and flatten it out as much as you can. Now we're going to fill it with our food. Now as you put your food in here, you want to kind of shake the bag a little bit so that it levels out in there. Now, when you do this, you want to leave yourself a couple inches on the top here, because you're going to fold this over and you're going to need room on the top for this to lay inside of the bucket. I think we're pretty good right there. So let's put in an oxygen absorber. So again, when you get these oxygen absorbers out of your container, make sure to close that container up quickly so that you don't use up those oxygen absorbers. Okay, so now once the oxygen absorbers is in there, however many you need, you want to try and push out as much of this air as you can get out. And the reason is it's that much less work for that oxygen absorber to have to do. Okay, so once you've done that, you're going to need a flat surface. And I like to use a little piece of wood. This is a little 1x2 here. And rather than trim the top off so that it takes up less space in there, less oxygen in there, leave it intact, and that way if you have to get back into it, get into it, you can seal it back up. You'll have enough room to do it. So, okay, now that we've kind of pushed out as much air as we can, you want to take the end and lay it on top of this board. Nice and flat. And you're going to need an iron. And you're going to iron just like you would a piece of clothing or something. Just iron this so that it melts the bag and seals it. And you want to make sure you go all the way across and really get it on there too. Be careful, don't overdo it, don't melt it, but you definitely want to make sure that you have a good seal on there. If you melt it, your wife's going to shoot you. Okay, let's take a look. I think that looks pretty good. So we're just going to fold this back in. See, it takes up a little space because you can't get it all out. But that oxygen absorber is going to compress this down and flatten it out, and it's going to be tied up against those beans that we put in there. So let's get this lid on there. We're good. And then you want to make sure you label it somewhere on here with a date and what's in this container. And there you go. That's how you do it. So I know our video is running a little bit long here, but I just wanted to cover a couple of things here before we finished up. The reason for the bucket is to keep out pests and light. Both of those things are going to do damage to your food. Also, the Mylar bag helps to keep out air and moisture, which would also damage your food. Those beans will probably last us 25 years in that bucket. At my age, I'll probably end up giving them to my family. One last thing, just a reminder again, if you would be so kind to please subscribe or follow, give us a thumbs up, a like, a rumble, whatever it is, wherever you're watching us. Thanks a lot. We appreciate your watching.